Hi everybody and welcome to the Film Nerds YouTube channel. Today we are going to be counting down our top 5 so bad it's good horror movies. That's right, today we're talking bad movies, so buckle up, and also spoiler alert. To start us off, we're going to be taking a look at Maximum Overdrive, which came out in 1986 and is the only film ever directed by horror author Stephen King. It's loosely based on one of his short stories, which is called Trucks.
What in the dickens is going on around here?
The film cost about $10 million to make, but it grossed only around $7 million in the United States, which means it was not a hit. The film stars Emilio Estevez, and it mostly takes place at a rest stop in North Carolina called the Dixie Boy. The premise of the film is that the Earth has passed through the tail of a comet, which has caused inanimate machines to spring to life with minds of their own. Chaos sets in, humans are attacked, and then they fight back.
You want a war? You got one.
If you've seen this movie before, then you may remember sort of the big bad of the film, which is a toy truck with a big green goblin mask on the front.
Maximum terror.
It's part apocalypse movie, part siege movie, and part Rambo, and it's a very fun, if at times silly, watch. In a 2002 interview with Tony Magistrale for his book Hollywood Stephen King, King stated that he was coked out of his mind through the whole production, and he didn't really know what he was doing.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
When asked later why he never went on to direct another movie, he said, just watch Maximum Overdrive. He also went on to call it a moron movie. But I disagree with Mr. King. This may be a moron movie, but it's also super fun. I think the main problem with the movie is that the very premise is kind of flawed. The whole idea of the Earth passing through the comet is barely explained, and then the machines coming to life often reads more as comedy than it does horror.
Help me.
Moving right along to our next pick, Street Trash. Street Trash came out in 1987 and was directed by Jim Murrow, who was only 22 years old at the time.
I don't need this. Are you tired of the same old routine?
My wife, my
Busting your hump and getting nowhere?
This just ain't my day.
It was also the only film he ever directed. The budget for the film was very small, only $500,000, and it was shot on the streets of New York City. It is one of a number of films known as melt movies, so called because of the melty body horror that takes place throughout. The inciting incident of this movie occurs when a liquor store owner in Brooklyn, New York, finds a case of wine hidden in a wall in his basement.
Don't drink my viper. What?
The wine is called Tenafly Viper, and it's over 60 years old, and it's gone bad, but he decides he's going to sell it anyway. And unfortunately, anyone who drinks it dies in a hideous fashion, sort of melting from the inside out. We also follow two homeless brothers who make their home in a local junkyard, and an evil big bad of the movie is named Bronson, who wants to turn the junkyard into his own autonomous kingdom.
I got my own place, a condominium.
It's a wild and frankly gross movie. One fun fact I found about this movie is that future director Bryan Singer actually worked as a production assistant on this film. You know him from, of course, The Usual Suspects, but also 4 of the X-Men movies. This movie is, above all, crude. The F word is spoken more than 128 times in this film.
Oh, fudge.
One review I found online called it very gross, mean-spirited, and ugly. And I agree, this movie is truly upsetting. It's super gross and offensive on every level. Watch at your own risk.
What's the matter? You can't hold your liquor, huh?
The next movie on our list is Anaconda, which came out in 1997. This movie was directed by Luis Loza and boasts a totally stacked cast, including Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Owen Wilson, and Jon Voight.
Double check your gear, make sure it's all on board, and pray you didn't forget your bug spray.
They have come to the world's most isolated jungle to explore the unknown Amazon.
You ready?
I think so.
It grossed $136.8 million worldwide off of only a $45 million budget, so this was a monster hit. The film takes place in the Amazon rainforest, and it follows a documentary crew who are hoping to film a lost indigenous tribe. But everything changes for them when their captain is incapacitated, and the ship is overtaken by a snake hunter, played by Jon Voight, who is hunting for a legendary giant green anaconda. This movie is a delight. It's famous for its very silly-looking animatronic anacondas. Another thing worth a special mention is Jon Voight's accent, which is totally unplaceable and changes throughout the film.
Anacondas are a perfect killing machine.
What the hell?
And you get the privilege of hearing your bones break before the power of the embrace causes your veins to explode.
That being said, J-Lo and Ice Cube are super watchable, and a really fun pair in this movie. It's clearly strongly influenced by Jaws, but it does not follow in that film's footsteps, instead deciding to show us the snake almost immediately, which is kind of a delight. It's absolutely a fun watch.
Big river style.
The second to last film on our list is another Stephen King joint, Sleepwalkers, which came out in 1992.
Charles Brady is new in town.
You can actually talk to him?
Yeah, he's nice. Real nice.
The girls all like him. The teachers all respect him.
Your teachers in Ohio must have been sorry to lose such a creative young man.
The parents all trust him.
He's utterly charming.
But nobody really knows him.
This time, Stephen King left the directing to Mike Garris, but he did pen the screenplay.
Thank God.
The film stars Machem Amick, who some of you might recognize from Twin Peaks or from Riverdale. The budget was $15 million, and the gross was around $30 million, so this movie was a hit as well. The film follows two vampiric shape-shifting creatures who have taken up residence in the town of Travis, Indiana.
Come in, Dad. I have something for you.
I don't know who you are, but I know you're not who you say you are.
It's a great start, I know. The creatures, called Sleepwalkers, feed on the life force of human virgin women. They are posing as mother and son, but one of the flaws of the movie is that it's unclear whether they're actually mother and son or whether they're just posing that way for the benefit of the mortals around them. If you're wondering if they make out, they do. Either way, there is sexual tension between them through the whole movie. Sometimes they look like people, sometimes they look like werecats, it's a whole thing. The younger male sleepwalker, Charles, takes the form of a handsome teen boy and tries to win the heart of another high school student, Tanya, in order to drain her life force.
Behind the secret is a hunger.
Does it have to be her?
Another amazing detail from the film is that the fatal flaw of the Sleepwalkers is ordinary house cats. They're like the only thing that can kill them, and that just reads as deeply funny. It's also the first time that King wrote a screenplay intended for the screen first, rather than basing a story off of one of his existing novels or short stories. One of the main flaws of the film is that it just isn't remotely scary, but it's campy fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously.
He was scared of a cat.
In our number one spot, we have Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night II. Hello, Mary Lou is a 1987 Canadian slasher film, full of fun 80s horror movie tropes.
She took the keys to my Cadillac car, jumped in my kitty.
Have you seen Mary Lou?
She
went behind the stage with Cooper.
All right, let's hear it for Mary Lou Maloney, the 1957 Hamilton High Prom Queen.
Never mind the stupid cape on head, just give me the crown.
The film was directed by Bruce Pittman and it stars Michael Ironside and Wendy Leon, who is absolutely amazing in this movie. It is a slasher film that mostly takes place in a Canadian high school in the 80s, which is the best setting that I can think of. The budget was around $2.5 Canadian, so who knows. This is both a slasher film and a possession film. The film starts in 1957, where a promiscuous and devious high schooler named Mary Lou is crowned prom queen, and then she dies later that same night after a malicious prank gone wrong. After that, the movie jumps forward 30 years and focuses on Vicky, another high schooler who's preparing for her own prom.
Now she's going to use Vicky's body to get her crown back.
Morning, prom queen.
Only nominated, but not the winner.
Not yet.
She is possessed by Mary Lou, and then the movie becomes 80s slasher horror fun as Mary Lou seeks revenge on all the people who wronged her in the past.
See you later, alligator.
Revenge.
It was originally intended to be a standalone film called The Haunting of Hamilton High, but later they decided to change the film to be a sequel to 1980's Prom Night in order to capitalize on that film's success. The only link between the two movies is that they take place at the same high school. The special effects, while of course a little dated, are actually really creative and pretty cool. And Wendy Leon is awesome as Vicky in this movie. The film is absolutely great and a super fun watch. The discussion of these bad movies is one that I make with no lack of respect to anyone involved with them. The cast and crew worked super hard to bring these movies to life, and the last thing I would want to do is denigrate their work in any way. It takes a ton of courage to put yourself out there creatively. When a movie turns out well, it's an awesome triumph, and when it doesn't turn out so well, then that's okay too. As filmmakers, there's a great deal to learn from all movies, both good and bad. Thanks for joining us here at Film Nerds, and remember to subscribe.